SAD, which means detection and approval, and scaling improvement. Fidelis Security is going to take us through how deception technology can turn attacker behavior into high confidence signals. For that and so much more, over to you, my friend.
Thank you. Thanks everyone. What we're talking about today is, when we work with security practitioners such as yourself, one of the key things, whatever organization we're working with, is, what is my risk assessment? So what are the critical assets that are on my network that, we need to protect? So, what is deception? What is deception? So deception is your traditional old honeypot, but now it's an enterprise grade. What that means is, the honeypots have become adaptive. They do not only, user base, file, and device level decoys, but they also do network level. So think of that decoy interacting with a real device on the network. We can do things like ARP poisoning, so sending out ARP entries into real devices to make that adversary think that, this is not something that's been sitting on the network for a while. This is an actual device that's communicating. Or things like link local multicast to understand man-in-the-middle attacks. So those decoys can actually detect anything from a man in the middle. So why deception? A couple reasons. One is just a high fidelity alert. So if anyone has worked in a SOC environment or has seen, the number of alerts that come in, depending on the size of your organization, they could be millions of alerts. You're trying to get them down to, 10,000 to even less to try to go through and work through those alerts. With deception, these are decoys that are published and not something that's actually used on the network. So whether it's an internal or external adversary, if someone's trying to access that decoy, that's a high fidelity alert. So we have large customers that use our deception platform. We have even small local state governments that don't have the necessary, resources as large firms do, but are able to deploy deception, get those alerts. If they have some sort of incident response team that they communicate with, they can, say we had someone hit our decoy. Outside of the high fidelity alerts, other key for deception is the scalability. We can deploy tens of thousands of decoys alongside those rail assets, critical in IoT infrastructures where, you may have medical devices, you may have, solar farms or, mechanical devices that are out there. You can deploy those alongside those real assets to slow down that adversary at the least. The other aspect of deception is just the flexibility. From our standpoint, we can deploy both in the cloud and on-prem. When you're working in the cloud environments, they have a different landscape than on-prem. So on-prem, we can use those breadcrumbs to deploy on real assets to try to lure that threat actor into the deception layer. In the cloud, comes, with the same, vulnerabilities that could be had on the cloud environment. We're trying to pull those into the cloud as well, any adversary to do that. Finally, when you're talking about deception, one of the keys that I like about it, work with a lot of my customers for, is now bringing your traditional tabletop exercises, but actually making it a digital investigation. So we have offensive teams that will actually go out, they'll create an incident on the deception layer, and then the incident response team will go after that incident just like they would a real incident, but now we're doing it not on a real network, in real network devices to potentially compromise those devices. We're doing it on the decoy level. So how our deception works is we understand the terrain of the network by our network sensors. Those sensors collect all the data, what is communicating on the network itself, and then we build that map of the network. From there, we can then deploy decoys based upon that information. So for instance, a VLAN has Linux devices on them. We're not going to publish a Windows device on a Linux-based VLAN. So we can automate and deploy across that for you. Another key for deception in that regard is it's very low maintenance. So we have one customer who's a 5 million plus cable subscriber base. There's one individual who actually works on deception for the whole company. So it's very low maintenance from even a large deployment standpoint, just because it can be automated. I mentioned already the non-standard devices, so they could be IoT devices. We can deploy HAR files as well, so those network type devices, firewalls that have a web login, we can recreate that. Same with any other website, we can create that as well to mimic a actual web server for that. So here's some of the capabilities of the product itself. When we're kind of going through. Well, the first thing we mention is that asset discovery and classification. That's what we want to know, what devices are on the network. One of my customers that I work with in the telecommunication side, they do a lot of unique or their own proprietary software. Those softwares runs on old systems. They could run on like an old CentOS device that doesn't have any updates for it anymore because it's end of life. We can deploy that type of system on the network to, again, mimic what they have in place for their assets. And again, try to lure that adversary to there. How we spin up the decoys, again, they can be from a user level. We can create users. We can create users based upon, what, the naming convention is globally for the organization, including the email. We can also tie into Entra ID, Active Directory, have those users in Active Directory, and then on our platform, use those as decoy users. So if if an adversary is trying to gain privilege escalation or gain an identity, we're going to alert on that as well. Device level, again, can be anything from an operating system, IoT type device, and file system. We have ability to upload your own file system, upload your own files with your own image and likeness, logos, etc., and can embed a canary token in there. So if that file starts to get exfiltrated across the network or laterally moved, we're going to detect that. We're going to alert on that. All our alerts are mapped to the MITRE ATT&CK framework. That's gives an idea of those IOCs that the TTPs that the adversary's performing on the network. It also uses our NDR capability to create what we call conclusions. Conclusions for us are just a timeline based of when an action started. So that action could be from a specific IP address. We're going to note when that first time frame was, and then any subsequent time frames. That's usually where our analysts work out of. So that NDR capability is built into the deception platform itself. And then finally, any particular threats, that's where we're mapping to MITRE. All these alerts, map to a conclusion. This conclusion looks like a threat to us based upon any, type of behavior. In this case, it's a decoy. So, everything's, a high priority. That'll be called out and mapped in that MITRE ATT&CK framework. I guess we talked about a couple things. Finally, when we're talking to customers, it's very easy to get, to look at the deception as a whole, but say, hey, do we really need this, right? Within the last, I'd say 12 months, we're starting to gain more and more acceptance of deception tools or interacting with adversaries, just based upon zero trust. Someone's on our network. We're assuming that's the case. And the interaction level is dependent on per organization basis. So we have the ability with the decoys to, once an adversary hits that decoy, to completely shut it down. But we also have the ability to engage. So by default, we're just going to, kick that adversary out, close that session. But you can also engage with them, meaning give them time on that device to move around, to run any type of commands. We're going to capture everything that they're doing. and then eventually you want to kick them out. So just in closing, how we work with our organizations is, everyone really is familiar with MITRE ATT&CK. MITRE Engage is the deception framework from MITRE. So it's, discussing and planning for that adversarial engagement of an organization, operations. So check that out and check out our deception. And I'm running out of time, so thank you, everyone.
Thank you. That's it. Well done.
Yeah, thanks.